This is the Sony KVA2942U. It's a Sony TV made in the mid-90s, probably 1995. It's 29 inches in size, or 68 centimetre. Typically heavy for a Sony, as they always are. The interesting thing about it is it's actually an import model from the UK, I would imagine. The previous owner told me it was an import, and there's a couple of signs that tell us that. So we'll go around and have a look at it. It's got some fairly big grills on the side there for the speaker sound to come out of. Both the same on each side. It's got a panel on the front here to get access to S-Video, composite, stereo left and right, headphone port and some controls. Some LEDs, main power switch there. Alright, going around the back here, I'll just turn the light on. Get some more light on the back if I can. There you go, big Sony engraved or embossed on the back. The original sticker, model sticker, is gone, so I've just stuck one on there with the model number and the chassis model number there on the bottom of it. Not too much going on the back here. It's got two SCART sockets. I've got the Saturn plugged into SCART 1, which is a black SCART socket, and that takes RGB. A couple of speaker terminals, RF terminal. Surprisingly no RCAs for sound out or even in, for that matter. Anyhow, let's have a look inside. With the back off, we can see there's some very large speaker enclosures on this model. Very large. I was fortunate to be able to get the model number for the TV there on that sticker. There we go. So yeah, on that sticker, no, there's another sticker here. It's dated 1995, 20th of the 11th. So it gives you a good approximate age on its manufactured time. But there is another sticker over here that's 29th of the 7th, 1999. So many years later, I'm guessing it may have had a repair at some stage later on. There's your Sony tube sticker there. Always a Sony tube on the inside. It's made in the UK. It does say it on there. I can't quite get the angle for you to see that, but genuine Sony tube made in the UK. Again, we see a couple of SCART sockets in there and a fair bit of stuff going on. A lot of wiring dangled over the place there in the chassis. While I'm at it, I'll show you that power plug that I mentioned before. So this is definitely not an original plug. It's got Clipsal on it, which is a brand here in Australia that manufactures lots of mains power accessories and things like that. So someone's just taken the original one off and put an Aussie one on. So that tells us that high possibility that's an import. Also, I've never seen this model on Australian shores before, and just the chassis and model number and everything just makes me think that it is from a different market indeed. The U on the end of the model number there is probably for UK, quite possibly. But anyhow, I'll get it back together and we'll turn it on. I don't have the original remote for the Sony. This is one that works, but Sony's pretty good as far as their compatibility is concerned with their remotes. They work, pretty much all the Sony remotes work on all the Sony TV. It's just a matter of whether you've got a particular button for a certain job, but certainly the basics on all the remotes to all the Sony TVs have worked in the combinations that I've tried. I want to show you now how to get into the service menu. What you want to do is have the TV turned on at its own power switch, so that'll be pressed in for on, but you still want to have the power off, mains power off at this point. There, it's off. So what you want to do is you want to take down this flap, and you'll probably just be able to see it. There's three black buttons there. There's one labelled P here on the very left, and there's volume down next to it. All you need to do, and I'll have to take my hands off the camera, is hold those two down, the P and the minus. Hold those two black buttons down together, as such. See if I can do it with the camera in the way. Hang on. Use two fingers, right? So those two held down, and then you turn the power on at the power point. TV's turned on. Let's see if the service menu is now accessible. There we go, TT. Sony often uses that, TT, to be an indication that service menu is accessible. Righto, we'll have a little play with that. So what you want to do now is press menu on the remote. Now this menu here is the standard menu that's available anytime and all the time. But what you do is go to the demo, and instead of the TV going into demo mode, it'll actually go into the service menu, which is here. I think it's this one here, number 3 on the list with a red arrow next to it. You go into that, and then that gives you all those adjustments there, because there are no pots on the chassis for these adjustments. By this time, 1995, Sony had opted for on-screen display servicing. So it's got a light vertical size, vertical shift. You can see that for yourself. And that's basically how you do it. As far as getting out of the service menu is concerned, I just turn the TV off and on, and I think it's pretty right. But pretty easy to access service menu. Some of them are often difficult, but that's how you do it. This unit likes to switch into widescreen. It all comes down to how your SCART cable's wired and powered, but the TV here likes to go into widescreen mode, so you need to get out of that. Just go into menu, picture control, and then down into format, change it to 4:3 and you'll get full screen. Now SCART 1 is for RGB. I think SCART 1's the only one that accepts it. It has its own S-video, as we saw in the front panel here. Yep. And I think one of the SCARTs, probably the second one on the back, is also an S-video if you want it to be. The game here is Diehard Trilogy for the Sega Saturn. It uses a light gun, so it's handy for testing whether the TV's 100Hz or not, because if it's 100Hz your light gun won't work. I don't believe it is 100Hz, but it pays just to test these things in case, if you know what I mean. I'll get it in game. I'll skip this and we'll get going. So again, this is Diehard Trilogy. Did I say Trilogy before or Arcade? I'm not sure, but this is Diehard Trilogy. This is compatible with the gun on this stage, which I've got going here now. This is not Virtual Cop, despite how similar it looks to it. Very primitive looking playing a game like this again. Graphically anyway. So you can see, well, I can tell you that it does work. I'm not having any problem shooting the enemies here. No. No problem at all. So it's not 100Hz. I didn't expect it to be. It certainly doesn't look like it. It looks like a good 50-60 Hz. But that confirms that it's not 100. I've changed games and gone back to Diehard Arcade. I think this is what I had on first for the video, then went to Trilogy. So I'm back on Arcade now just to confuse things a bit more. When I first got this set, the picture was actually rotated anti-clockwise quite a bit, and I was a bit worried that because it's come from the Northern Hemisphere, where it would have been calibrated for that hemisphere, that now that it's in the Southern Hemisphere, it's put the picture a bit lopsided. But fortunately, under preset here, there is an option for picture rotation, which it's now on +2, which keeps it straight. Before it was on -4. So fortunately this has corrected that slope, that anti-clockwise problem that it had. And I can't see any other problems which may be attributable to it from coming from up the northern half of the world. So anyhow, it works fine. There's a slight scratch, unfortunately, there in the centre of the screen on the glass there. But you know, here in Australia we never got any Sonys with SCART from the mid-90s, but what we did get from the early 90s are quite good anyway. But you know, this is another typical Sony. It's quite a good picture, very good, very serviceable, very usable. You'd be quite happy to have something for this for your vintage RBG games. So anyhow, it's not one that you're going to find around much. You do occasionally see these imports from time to time. I do see them for sale, just on the odd occasion, an import. and you can pretty much be sure that if it's come from the UK, it's got a SCART. So just keep an eye out. You might find something like this. Anyhow, I thought I'd do a video just to log and categorise all the ones that I do come across. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll check out the links at the bottom of the video. There may or may not be any. Just depends what I've got going at the time. I might have my Facebook page there for TVs and stuff. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.